Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in today. This is Raheen. Today we have MANDY SANGHERA with us. Thank you so much for being on, Mandy. It's such a pleasure to have you on. First, like usual, let's begin with Mandy's introduction. Please introduce yourself, then we can kickstart this conversation.
Hi, I'm MANDY SANGHERA. I'm an international human rights activist from the UK who's been campaigning for over 33 years now. So probably some of your listeners were probably not even born when I started campaigning, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. So as when I was younger, as you, I started to really want to live a life of service and really want to make a difference to help people. So that's how I started, and I'm still here now in my 50s doing the same thing.
Well, that's really amazing. So let's start, you know, from the little beginning. How was your childhood and your teenagers, and how were you as a young person?
Okay, so I'm the oldest of four, and I grew up in a Punjabi household, brought up on Sikhism and Hinduism, and you know, it was great having siblings, and kind of lived in the UK and born and raised here as well. So had you know, the best of both worlds, learning about my culture and also learning about the UK and like living a great life. So, you know, I've been incredibly blessed with a great life, and I feel very lucky to have found my dharma, my life purpose, to do what I want to do. So I love what I do. And even when I was young, I always wanted to stand up for things that were, you know, not right in our community. For instance, we saw people facing domestic violence and abuse, and you would say, look, this is not right. So I think I've always had that in me, to be a voice for the voiceless and help the helpless. And I think as I've got older, and the more that I do that, I'm now pulling up the next generation behind me.
Amazing. And how do you personally think, like, I think anybody's childhood and, you know, basically their teenagers are very important. They're very vital years of one's life. So how important do you think a person's childhood is, and how does it make impact and then, well, all the years that are to come?
I think it's really important that you grow up in a good, safe home, but actually for a lot of people, that isn't the case. And actually, as I've been working around the world over the last, you know, 30 odd years, I've seen, like, you know, not everyone has been lucky enough as I have to grow up in a loving, caring home and been able to be brought up to stand up and be, you know, treated equally regardless of my gender. And I know that growing up in the South Asian community, you are conditioned a certain way, you're expected to be a certain way, because, you know, those are cultural practices that your parents bring over. But I think things have changed over the years. I think people have westernized, people have adapted to both of those cultures and understanding, and that's what we're trying to do. Sorry, oh, my voice is sorry. So it's really important about that. Sorry, just having a few issues there. So what I would say to you is that it's a part of the culture. It's really important that we understand that, you know, girls and boys can do the same, and we need to educate. But I know that when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, that there was a real divide. There was a real difference how women and boys were treated. And, you know, it was really quite interesting to see where, you know, girls were not always given so much freedom. So things have changed, but over the years, things have got a lot better. But I think for me, growing up in a place where I was allowed to be my authentic self has given me a sense of self-worth. It's given me a confidence about being my true self and not pretending to be something I'm not, and not conforming. And I think that's given me the voice, and I've become who I am today because of, like, growing up in a place where you're allowed to be who you wanted to be.
Yeah, and what time was it, and when was it that you realized that activism is what I'm going to do? I am going to stand up for those that are around me. So when was it that you had that realization, and then went on?
You know what? Probably about 18, 19, I realized, because I was seeing things as I was sort of left school, saw things not being right. I saw, you know, violence and abuse. I had a friend with a disability that ended up being forced into a marriage, and she suffered horrific abuse. And I stood up and spoke up for her. And, you know, even your own family and community was saying, oh, it's none of your business, don't speak up. You know, and I think if living in Pakistan where you are, you probably see that sometimes if somebody is beating up the wife or children next door, your family wouldn't always get involved. They sort of think it's not our business. But I think what I realized was, hang on, I need to stand up and do the right thing. I need to call out these bad practices. And so I started doing that. Then I went to live away in North America and again continued to do that. And, you know, as I've been doing it for like 33 years in November now, and I've made a lot of real big changes. So I'm one of the founders of the UK Forced Marriage Unit. You know, I've been involved in a lot of legislation and, you know, laws around the world, around not just around child marriage and other issues, but actually around violence against women, talking about issues. I mean, just today I've written about, did an article with somebody on Sky about witchcraft and juju, which, you know, like black magic and things. And we're trying to educate communities to say, look, these things, you know, bad and good happen in all our lives, but it's about, you know, not blaming everyone else for different things, and it's about just accepting things in our life sometimes as well.
Yeah, and I totally agree. So what exactly are you focusing on your activism?
So at the moment, I've been doing a lot of work helping people from Afghanistan recently. So I've been involved with evacuating a lot of people. I've supported 79 people to come out just recently now, since the crisis of after the 15th of August. So, you know, I've been very proactive, but previous to that, I was also helping with interpreters to be evacuated to come to the UK. But also, I mean, I've spent the last probably 15, 16 years more now focusing on empowering the next generation. I really believe in sending the elevator back down and in supporting young people like you to have a voice, to be given opportunities, to make sure that, you know, you can build your network and connections and be the change that you want to see. It's really important that we do that.
Yeah, and it's really nice that you mentioned giving young people a voice, because I believe all of us, we have a voice and we deserve to be heard out. But the thing there is that I've heard a lot of people, and because I am always involved in open dialogues with people, sometimes people really generalize when they say that all young people are playing video games and they're not focusing and they're not caring about what's happening around them. I feel like, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that play video games all day and they really don't care about what's going on around them, but I feel like it's not all of us, and there's generalization that's happening.
But I think,
so what do you got to say
people,
about that?
But I think, you know what, if I look at young people, like if you think about people like Greta, who's very passionate about climate change, and we've seen other young people across the globe wanting to make a real change now, standing up for gender-based violence, standing up for climate change, standing up for equality, standing up for education. So I think that there has been a real movement. I think with the next generation, especially, they can use social media and become real influencers. And I think, look at you, you're a really good example of that, by creating a podcast, interviewing people, growing your network, connecting with people around the world. So actually, I think you're doing a really good thing, because actually what you're doing is you're cleverly building up your black book. So as you get older, you will have people like myself and other people that can support you in your journey, because you've built that relationship with people. But we need more people to do that. And it's fine, you want to sit and play games all day, and that is fine if that's what you want to do. But I think, you know what, the world has become very different in the last 18 months through the pandemic. We have seen young people being pulled out of school. We've seen people not getting into to university properly, not getting the graduate jobs. So the class of 2020-21 has been affected in a different way. So for me, it's really important that I leave no one behind, that we look at creating opportunities for young people to be given a chance. So I've always been one of those women that actually make sure that everyone has a voice and has a seat at the table. But I've also seen, women not wanting to do that for the next generation. I've seen women sort of like say, well, actually, why should I be helping somebody, or I need to be paid for it? But then it doesn't work like that. And I think if you live a life of abundance and you live a life of manifesting good things into your life, and if your glass is really full, like I always say to people, mine is overflowing, so I have to keep tipping it and paying it forward. So then new things come to me, new experience come to me, and all the good things keep coming. And that's just how life works in general. So I always try and say to people, if you hold on to positions and think, oh, I'm not going to help somebody, or I have an agenda, then good things will not happen to you. So I always try and say to people, please pay it forward. If you can mentor, if you can support somebody, it's really important that you do that. if somebody's interested in something and you're able to help them, then it's really important to do that as well. So I think, I have a lot of young people from all over the world that follow me, and I've done a lot of events, not just within the UN, but I've spoken around some of the world's best universities and, so many platforms. And I continue to do that. Even through the pandemic, I was doing events almost every other day online, connecting with young people around the world, working with the world's biggest organizations. So I'm trying to show people that you can still be relevant.
That's amazing. And I feel like, the COVID-19 is actually, for me, that's one of the biggest things that could ever happen, and the best thing that could happen for, what I was trying to do, because I was, before COVID, what I was trying to do is to come online, get people to come online, because not necessarily can I travel the world and then meet everybody, because that takes resources. And so many things would go into that. But I feel like just hopping onto a Zoom meeting, sharing your thoughts, your perspective on certain topics would be way more. And I feel like open dialogue is the way to, and it's a solution to many, many things, because we could just talk it out in a respectful way rather than just like holding it inside until we explode. Now, in your LinkedIn bio, it says that you've been traveling around the world motivating people via your program that's Find Your Mojo. So please tell us a little more about that.
Okay, so I love that actually. So what that's about is actually, I believe that everyone has a life purpose and a gift to share with the world. And depends on whatever your faith and cultural beliefs are. But to me, I always knew that even like young people, when you look at when you're growing up, somebody might be really talented in music, or they might be really good at doing sports, but the parents will say, no, stop it. You need to become a doctor. You need to become a lawyer. You need to be this, because society wants you to be a certain way. So for me, I help. How I started in Find Your Mojo was through people who had experienced domestic violence and abuse, and people were mentally not in a good place. So I wanted to help them to rebuild their life, build their confidence, find out who they really were, so they could actually thrive and not just survive. Because to me, when you think about empowerment, it's not about just giving people the resources, it's about teaching them resilience and the skills to let go of fear and to rebuild their life step by step, brick by brick, and find out who they are, what they want to do, and live their authentic self. That's what I really believe in, and this is what I've continued to do. So, that program's gone really well. I use it with young people through mentoring. And I'm not just about mentoring, I'm also about being a sponsor. So what I believe in is actually opening doors and bringing people up behind me. So making sure that people are given real opportunities to be able to talk about the things that are important to them. So that's how it started. And I've still been doing that for 30 odd years, but I love doing it because I find it really satisfying when I make a difference in people's life. And I think, just recently with all the work that I've done within Afghanistan and rescuing people and getting them out and helping them to rebuild their life. And some of them haven't done that yet, but, we're already a month into the process. But I know with the right support, with the right skill sets, these people will thrive. They don't just need charity, they need the resources, the opportunities to live the life that they need to and what they want to do. So, I'm very passionate about doing that. And, and I feel very blessed because actually when I look at my life, I've really have had an amazing life, even though I've had some health, problems in my life as a younger person. But, those things have just been, lessons, and you learn from them, you move on, you learn resilience, you learn something in that bad time as well. So everything in life doesn't always go perfect, but it's not about staying in that bad place. It's about learning the lessons, moving forward, learning the resilience, letting go of the fear, and also in our communities as well, let go of what other people's expectations, because they're not going to come here and look after you. They're not going to support you. So it's really important that you bring your whole authentic self to the table, live your life in the right way that you want to.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you talked about mentoring young people. I feel like I've had mentors that have really helped me, with some with theater, some with, talking to people, some with networking. And, I feel like every one of them was able to give me something that is invaluable. And I thank everything for that, for being, for having those opportunities, and then for trusting myself to really just go on and actually just go for it. But how important do you think is having the right person or having the right mentor is? How important is it?
It's incredibly important, but I will also say to you that different mentors through your life, because actually you will not always end up with just that one mentor in your life, because like you come in a different time in your life, and I've had many mentors and sponsors and supporters, and I continue to have them, and people, you know, work and collaborate with you, and it's like just the life circle. So which I'm saying to you, as things move forward, different people will move forward, and as your life moves forward. So even if you think about your life purpose, your dharma, whatever you may call it, your why, you know, it changes all the time. Different things will happen to us, different opportunities will come to us, our priorities will change as well. So like for me, I didn't want to do things around climate probably many years ago, but then I've realized the impact of climate. And then I also saw the impact of climate change on young women and children, especially when I went to countries around the world and saw the devastating effects of climate on young people. So like child marriage, if parents didn't have enough food or money to grow their crops and things where parents will do that. We've seen the impact of refugees and people being displaced right now and, you know, losing everything and trying to rebuild their life. So, you know, I've seen a lot in my life, but actually for me, it's about always being about life as service, wanting to give back, making a difference in people's life, and not just saying things, but actually, Raheen, it's really important that you are, you know, really authentic and genuine. And I think to me, I'm just too old now, so I don't have time for, you know, playing silly games. I'm very straight with people, but I think people respect that because they know that I'm, you know, I don't sugarcoat things. Actually, I'm very, very blunt with people. So if somebody comes to me and thinks, oh, I want to be famous, I want to be this, I said, well, listen, I'm not that person. I can't do that for you, but I can help you to support you, to change your life. I can give you the tools, I can empower you, I can educate you, I can do lots of different things. And also what I say to young people, which they always find funny, is that you can't climb a ladder with your hands in your pocket, Raheen. So I can give you an opportunity, but if you don't make the most of it, and then you come back to me 2 months later crying, oh, well, I didn't get what I wanted out of that. But if you didn't go through the door properly or climb the steps properly to get there. And I also think that, I don't know if it's, you know, with the next generation, especially, they see things on social media. So like people like being an influencer and things, and they feel like, oh, this is what I need to be like, but they don't see the blood, sweat and tears. They don't see the hard work that goes on behind it. So I always say to young people, listen, if you build something with straw, it's going to topple down. So you have to build something brick by brick, and it's built on strong foundations, and then things will, you know, have got longevity.
Yeah, and I feel like the culture right now is people don't want to show like the work that goes behind. You know, we see huge celebrities and social media influencers, but you know, even they would not showcase with how much work goes behind. Because I have had, you know, young people or parents come up to me and be like, you know, we want our children to be like you. And like, well, they can be the most of themselves. I can just help them. Of course, I can, you know, engage them. If you don't want to work, because there's a lot of effort that goes into this, and it's not just my effort. It's my parents, my family, it's my brothers, it's everybody's that goes into this. Because if I have a session 3 a.m, they would really, all of them, they give me a separate room, they respect me, they cook for dinner, all those sort of things. They do all of that for me. But you know, I think it's just about the realization for that, and that's very important. Now, I mean, you've traveled around the world and you've seen many women in many situations, and I feel like we both are empowered women right here. We have the resources now to talk up and speak up for other women. Now, how often would you come across situations where you'd be like, oh my God, this is so different than how, you know, I'd expect women to be in situations like this? Because I have encountered such, you know, women that I'm like, how are they still living there? And sometimes they're fighting for themselves. Sometimes it's just for the children. And then because it's just unique to everybody's situation. So there's nothing that you could just generalize one cause.
Yeah. So I've like traveled around 3 times around the world. So I've been very lucky to travel to every continent and most countries around the world to work and empower people. And each country, we've seen like different things. So like if you go to somewhere like within the African continent, you know, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of like gender-based violence, there's a lot of issues. Those issues are also in the global south. But then there's also issues around honor and izzat within the communities. There are other cultural practices as well that actually, you know, add to the problems. And then I've gone to places like the MENA region where you may see like a lot of money and wealth, but actually women may not always have the freedom to do what they want to do as well. But then you can go to like, say, even Latin America or somewhere like that and see that, you know, women are still fighting for equality. So even in the UK where I'm living, before the pandemic, and even in America and other countries, women were paid 24.5% less than men. The World Economic Forum is now telling us that women's equality and equal pay has gone back even 30-something years. It's going to take over 250 years, more than that, to get equality for women to be paid. So it's not even about different cultures and things like that. I think, you know, sadly, in some communities, there are other social issues and, you know, cultural practices that will happen. And we've seen this within Afghanistan right now, where we're seeing people, you know, women being pulled out of school, children being pulled out of school, women not to be allowed to work, not to go out without a male. So for 20 years, women had freedom. They were able to get educated. They were allowed to go and live a life the way they want to. So, you know, we need to call out those practices. We need to call out people and say, no, this is not right. We don't have a right to, you know, take away people's freedom and free speech. You know, you should have a democracy and you should be allowed to do that. So, you know, I think for me, you know, will take on a good fight. I will always stand up for what is right. And it's not about the applause for me. It's always been about the cause. So I think that's the secret to longevity, that I've never been bigger than the cause. I've always been a part of the cause to make a change. So where I have seen some people, and one question people ask me all the time, it's like, Mandy, oh my God, you're still here like all these years later. And I said, well, sadly, violence against women has not ended. Child abuse has not ended. All those issues have not ended. So if these things had gone away in our society, then you wouldn't need me. You know, so that's what I was going to say to you. So I think it's just about changing with the times, but moving with the times. I do a lot of hackathons. I look at tech solutions. I look at social, you know, tech for social good now. So I'm always being innovative and creative and moving with the times. So that's a secret to longevity and success, I guess.
Amazing. And I do feel like it's important moving with time as well, because if you, let's say if you're like, okay, I am an activist and I am standing up for people, I am going to events and speaking up and traveling around the world, but I'm not going to come on to Zoom, I'm not going to do any tech interviews or any conversations online, then that's just limiting yourself and your potential. And that is something that it's an action that needs to be taken for really not, it's not just becoming more famous everywhere, being everywhere. I get it. Some people, it is important, but I feel like the cause that you're working for, the more recognition it gets, the more attention
and I'll tell
it
you
gets.
One thing I have seen. Yeah. So Raheen, one thing I have seen is that sadly, there is something called the ego, where we will see people want to promote themselves. They want to be bigger than the cause, and they want to be bigger than everything else. You know what? You're not going to be sustainable. You may get you might get on the TV, you may get a couple of articles, but you know what? I see these people all the time. And what I always say to people, I don't know if you have the show like X Factor or like reality shows, where you may end up with some sort of celebrity who wins a show on a reality show. And they're here. And, you know, when they first win, they get all these deals, they're doing everything. And then you never hear from them. 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, nobody knows who the hell they are. So what I always say to people, why don't you try to be like a legend, like somebody like, I don't know, Elton John, who sings, who comes back every year, he could sing and everyone will buy his record because he is, you know, built his brand, he's got the reputation, and do that. So it's not about just being this one hit wonder where you have one hit and that's it, you know. So it's about sustainability, being authentic to yourself, living a life of purpose with that for the cause, and actually a life of service is what I live my life by. And I also believe in like paying it forward. Like I said to you earlier, when your glass is overfilling with great things and blessings, you have to pay them forward. So the universe sends you more things, or God, whoever you believe in, and you open doors. And that's just how life works. It's a circle. everything you're looking for is within you. And, you know, whatever you put out to the world is what you're going to get back. So that is what I always say to people. And I'm living proof of that.
That's amazing. That's so sweet. Thank you so much, Mandy, for being on. Please stay back after I stop the recording. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. It was so nice to have you as an audience. Please give me feedback. I'm going to put this everywhere. I would love if you can reach me out on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I'm Raheen Fatima, and Mandy Sanghera is on LinkedIn too. And I believe that's where you'd like to be reached out, right?
Yeah, brilliant. So no, I just want to say, you know, thank you again. And it's great to join you today. And I just love when young people are really taking action. So, you know what, I love the fact that you are just not talking, but you're really taking real action as well. So you're a great role model for young people as well. So keep up the great work. And I'm sure that we're going to cross paths again real soon. So, and goodbye to everybody. So thank you.
Thank you so much.